Can I help you? All right, so check this out. I was at Ross and I was standing in line. We were getting ready to check out. And I just so happened to notice a lady. The way that she was standing looked like she was kind of really uncomfortable, like she was kind of antsy, back and forth. And I understand sometimes that's just people's personality, but for some reason, the Holy Spirit was highlighting her to me. So I was just kind of like, just watching her. And one of the things that I noticed was the back of her neck was very red and kind of looked inflamed, potentially, where I would notice that she would potentially be in pain, right? And so then another thing I noticed was that one of her shoulders was kind of higher than the other one. So it's like she's physically deformed or her body is disfigured. And so I asked her, I said, are you in pain? And I asked her that because I had every intention to potentially, pray for her if she would have allowed me to. And so she told me no. And I was like, okay, I'm still perturbed because what I'm physically looking at or visibly seeing is every sign that says that she is clearly in pain and that something is bothering her. And so my next question was, well, are you a believer? Because I had every intention on praying for her anyway. And it wasn't necessarily that I was looking for her to tell me no, she wasn't a believer, to, say I wasn't going to pray for her. It was more so of just knowing what language I was going to be using in order to pray for her. And so she told me that, yes, she was a believer. And so I'm excited because now I see this as an opportunity for God to be God, right? In the middle of Ross. And so I continue to, move forward with her. And one of the things that, I said to her is I said, okay, is it okay if I pray for you? And she told me, she said, no, I'm okay. And I was shocked. I wasn't really expecting her to say, no, I'm okay, right? But I'm like, okay. And so then she proceeds to kind of tell me this story about, her kid and, pretty much trying to convince me that, like, she's really a believer, even though she's not wanting to allow me to pray for her. And I just kind of sat there and I listened to her. And one of the things that she said was, pretty much, I don't need prayer. And I said, okay, because I'm like, we all need prayer. But I'm like, okay. And so she's continuing to talk and she's telling me the story about how her daughter goes to a Christian school and pretty much she comes back trying to apply the things that she's learning in school. And one of the things that she always wants to do is she wants to pray for her mom. And so she said that she told her, or that she's been telling her, pretty much, save your prayers for people who need it. And when I tell you, my heart sank into my stomach because I was hit with this reality that potentially the mindset that she has behind her faith is the same thing that she's going to be imposing on her daughter that's excited to come and apply what she's learning and how her faith is being built up. And, just to make a long story short, I kind of felt myself kind of convincing her that she was in need of healing. She was in need of prayer, and she continued to emphasize the fact that she's good. She's not in pain. She doesn't need any prayer or anything like that. And so I had to come to grips with this, is that potentially our idea of healing is wrapped around us not feeling anymore. I could visibly see that she was in pain, but she didn't know that she was in pain. And so then that tells me that she's on medication. She's taking medication, and this medication has manipulated her brain or manipulated her body into thinking that what it's experiencing is not what it's experiencing. And so this can be good in some ways because it gives you an opportunity to heal, but it also can disguise when you are healing broken. You understand? And so then when wholeness comes along, right? When wholeness comes along, you feel confident in your denial of wholeness because you have centered your life around a false perception of healing. You have healed broken. And so I believe that the Lord wanted me to disclose this or share this with you because we have to be in pursuit of wholeness, and that wholeness is not absent of Jesus. You understand? When we are okay with not feeling anymore, when the pain is not at the forefront of our mind, when we're no longer having memories and reminiscing on different situations and circumstances, it doesn't mean that you're healed. That sometimes you can develop a concept of wholeness around learning how to live life with just your side of the story. You get what I'm saying? Or just your perception or your comforts. You built your life around being broken, and so you call that wholeness because you're successful in being broken. And I believe that the Lord wants you to be whole. He wants to be a part of your healing. He wants to be a part of your process. And a lot of times we can deny his participation because we're so comfortable in the life we've created. We have learned how to adapt well with our brokenness, and we sometimes use that as a wall to keep God out when he wants to bring us into a place of wholeness. What am I saying to you? When you heal broken, you also heal with fears, and that perfect love is only perfect love that casts out fear. Perfect love comes from God because God is love. And so let him love on you. It is his love that has the ability to transform, and we cannot reject him because we're comfortable in our perception of what wholeness is. You can practice wrong. All right? Healing and wholeness can't be absent of Jesus. Can I say this to you? Go after all of it. Even if you're comfortable where you are in the level of healing that you have achieved, go after all of it. If my body is not the way that God designed it to be when he initially put me on this earth, I want my original status, okay? I want my original status. I want my bones to move the way they're supposed to move, my brain to function the way they're supposed to function. I want my back to be in the form that it was when I was born, and I do understand that some people are born with ailments and deficiencies, but even those things are designed so that God can get the glory. And so allow him to get that. Don't get comfortable in the level of healing that you have been able to access outside of God or without God. When God approaches you, come on, let's fix our mouths and learn how to say, yes, Lord. The Lord is trying to make a testimony out of your life, but you can't get comfortable where you are. Go after it all.